What was your question?
My question was, are you in music yourself? Because I always see your posts being, such an advocate for artists and for, different, just for musicians in general.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, is this guy a musician? Or like, why is he?
Honestly, getting a bass clef tattoo
Yeah.
was the worst thing I could have done because I don't play the bass, and that's always the question.
So funny.
I just was like, everyone always got
you're a bass player.
the treble clef, and I was like, I'm gonna do the opposite of
yeah.
that, which was a stupid 18-year-old tattoo idea. No, long story short, I came to LA like 8 or 9 years ago. Immediately within 6 months, had like 2 internships at management companies, a small indie label, turned that into a full-time job at a label, and then met a music producer and a film composer who had a lot of credits, like kind of bigger dudes that have been in LA for 2 decades. They were building a studio and needed like the young energy to kind of come in and wanted a just a tie to like the grassroots artists, kind of like yourself, people coming to LA, people who've been in LA, because we had larger clients at the studio that were like labels and whatever, but we didn't have that, again, just grassroots kind of community or any sort of following. So like my end was starting these shows, and the whole goal was to get them back to the studio, the ones we really liked, and we were making a lot of music at that time. So we built multiple studios together. I ended up investing into the company. My dad died, so I got like money from that and just put literally every cent I've ever owned into those studios.
Yeah.
And it was going great. Honestly, I think it was February before COVID, we had made the most money since I had been in LA. And then boom, COVID happens. So we couldn't do productions. We couldn't like pay bills for the studio, and then the government's like, oh, you got to take this SBA loan. So then we take this money, and then it's like 3 months go by. It's like, are we getting more money, or like, so what are we supposed to do?
Now?
Yeah, and then they move to Idaho. They got out of LA. They're like, we can't do this because they were older than I was. They had kids.
Yeah.
And I just had to make like the hard choice of like, do I kind of go with them and like do something else there, or do I stay here? And I just didn't feel like I was done here.
Yeah.
So I had another showcase called Writer's Block, which was super popular amongst like the kind of solo singer-songwriters. We would do 9 artists in a night, 3 song sets. So it was super community. We had done it for 5 years, so it had label interest and publishers and all that.
That's cool, because LA doesn't have a ton of stuff like that. I think
exactly.
A lot in Nashville, but not.
Yes.
Here.
When we started it, there was like one. It was Grant Owens and School Night, and then Writer's Block. Those were like the 3 that you would hit. And now it's turned into, I see new ones popping up all the time, like random, and they're good. It's not saying, it's just, there's, having to restart, I'm like, I can't do that again because so many other people have adopted the model, and there's that.
Totally.
So with the show we're doing now, the one that you played, it was like, I want artists on stage, for longer set times. It's like we're doing more bands. It's more in my personality. I was like, if I'm going to do anything again, I have to like rebuild as myself rather than, and I'm sure you can kind of relate, to the situations you went through of like,
restarting.
Yeah.
Just starting over.
Yeah. No. And so the reason in general that I wanted to talk to you was just, I think you have an interesting perspective based on having been signed to a label, gone through that sort of system, gone through it pretty quick, it seemed.
Yeah.
And then now being out on the other side of that, you probably have a perspective that, not a lot, or maybe a lot of artists at this point, now have, but in your own way.
Yeah. It's funny because when I try and talk to like my friends from home about it, they're like, what is she talking about? Like, because, they're not in the music industry. Yeah. I've learned so much since being signed.
Yep.
But when I do talk to other artists, they're always just like, yeah, that's just like how it works. I'm like, why does it have to work like this? That sucks.
Exactly. Yeah. So start it, I guess, at the beginning. You're in Nashville.
Yeah.
How does the record deal come about?
Well, so I moved to Nashville when I was 17. I convinced my parents to let me move there without going to college. I was like, just give me 1 year, 7 years later.
Yep.
I guess I signed the record deal like the 4th year I lived there. So it would have been like the end of my college experience, I guess. But it was December of 2020. So they were like, we're going to sign you, but just be patient because the world's closed right now. We don't know what's going to happen next, so just be patient. And so they had me write, though, a full-length album. Like, it took, I had a month to write the album before going into the studio with Dave Cobb. And I was super nervous for that because before that, I had only been with my publishing deal a few months before signing the record deal. I came out with a little project by myself during the height of the pandemic and then got signed. And went to make this full-length record, and then they were like, okay, now we need to get her management.
Wow.
And, usually you have management maybe before signing a record deal.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
and Pete Gambarg at Atlantic signed me, and I love him. And he,
Yep.
He was really great from the beginning, and he was like, we need to find her management. So it was still like deep in the pandemic, and I met with a few different managers, but the ones that I clicked with the most was Full Stop Management.
Yep. Yeah.
And, I flew out to LA to meet them, got fancy dinners, and like went to one of their houses that was in Beverly Hills. It was my first time in LA, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like they're having sushi delivered, and there's like mini Fiji waters and like all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. But also, Jeffrey had said something that really, stuck with me, and he had said that he really cares about his artists and like, just wants to be there with them from day one to the second that you see them walk out on the stage, and like there's a whole crowd there, and you were there with them since day one and through all the hardships and stuff. And so I was like, this is my guy, So I signed with them, but still, it's the pandemic, and so I go back to Nashville. I'm living there for like almost another year and a half before they tell me I need to move to LA.
Yeah.
Dye my hair red against my will, and got out here. And we had this whole album that I had just recorded with Dave Cobb that we're supposed to be releasing, but now they don't know how they feel about those songs. I'm still writing a bunch of songs, so Pete at Atlantic's like, okay, we already spent all this money recording this album, but the songs are better now that she keeps writing.
Yep.
And so we put together an EP that comes out first, and 5 months later, Full Stop drops me.
Holy shit.
And, it had already been so much time during the pandemic with the label. Now I'm already signed for 2.5 years, but I've only just started. And
so you were, in that time, you were writing and recording, or was it on hold?
I had already recorded the album.
Yep.
It was on hold, and then I just continued to write because I was like, I'm not just going to sit here.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all my writes over Zoom. I was starting to do them in person again. Nashville was a lot more open than LA was. At the time, our pandemic was like 3 months.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ours was literally 2 years. It's like I saw friends, I have, a lot of friends that believe both different sides in Florida. And I'm like, the ones who are on the left, I'm like, yo, you guys are reaping the benefits.
No,
like, come here, dude. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I came here, I was like, why are the restaurants not open?
Exactly.
I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, the guy at Coffee Beans fucking ripping me apart for having my mask under my... I'm like, bro, you work at fucking Coffee Beans. No disrespect to those guys. I'm like, you're not a cop, dude. So
I know. Why are you telling me?
Yeah.
And back in Nashville, I mean, bachelorettes were already having parties. And Broadway was open. Everything was open. You just had to have your mask. When no one had their mask.
Exactly.
Like, everyone was so over it.
That's a trip. And you would just... So how long were you in LA during... Because you came in the pandemic.
I came to visit during the pandemic when I met with Full Stop the first time.
Yes.
And that was like February of 2021. Didn't move until a full year after that.
Got you. So now we're 2022. We're out of that. You're waiting for the record.
Now we're starting to plan. Oh, the record's coming out. And I did not want to move to LA. Like, I'm going to be completely honest about that. I had all my like co-collaborators in Nashville that I wrote all these songs with. And I had been there for a long time. And I felt really safe there, and also just really connected there.
Yep.
I got here and only had Full Stop. I didn't have new people to write with, and they're trying to set up rights. But
are you leaning on them to be like
no,
I need to like...
my Nashville publishing company is trying to set me up rights out here, but they're a Nashville publishing company. They aren't super like connected out here.
Why now? Do they want to move you out here because they are here?
Yes.
And they didn't want...
They said in Nashville, my songs could come off country, and LA is just better hair and makeup teams, better studios, better everything. Nashville's like really dated. Nashville, is for the like super blonde, girly country person, and that's not me, and I need to be out here where I can work with their people.
That wasn't because we did a lot of shows in Nashville. So I had a lot of these types of conversations, artists in deals, artists trying to get the deals, whatever. But a lot of the music was like, we were doing alt pop type shows and like finding edgy stuff. And I was like, I was even kind of blown back. I was like, this is not what everyone in LA says about Nashville. You found, or I found the pockets of people who were kind of like me and just, had attitude. And
they totally hate on each other.
Yeah.
LA and Nashville.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, I know.
Why is
it's
that?
Crazy. I don't know. They're like they hated Nashville.
Yeah. No
and they're like,
shit.
we'll visit, but we always are like so excited to get back to LA. So I'm like, fine. So I moved to LA. I dyed my hair. I'm like, you know what? these guys say that they are, you know, going to be there with me till the end. They're taking a chance on a new artist, and they're promising me a lot, and so I'm going to do what they say, even though I don't want to. I will do anything for my career, and that's kind of one of my worst qualities, too, sometimes, is because I trust the people, you know, that are leading me. And at the time, too, when I first signed my record deal, I was 22, 27 now.
Wow.
And it just went by so fast, and I look back and I'm like, I was like my best version of myself before any of those people even came into my life.
Isn't that wild?
And all of a sudden, after I was dropped by Full Stop, that was a huge blow for me because like people don't understand too, like as an artist, you become really close with your managers, you know, or your manager or whatever. And like you trust them and you grow a friendship, and maybe that was my mistake too. But I was so blindsided by being dropped. Even the label didn't know I was being dropped. So then after that, the label's like, okay, well, what are we doing next? Because management tells the label the plan. And it was time to come out with music again.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you were initially dropped by the management company first.
And that's what.
And you started technically without them. You got the publishing deal, the record deal without management. They say you need management.
Yeah.
You get the managers. Managers tell you, leave the thing that you love in Nashville that's
change
creatively
everything
great.
about you.
Come here. And then they're
we
like,
got you. Bye. Yeah. It's been, I've been going, it is really fucked up. I've been going through all the emotions of it. At first, I was really sad and just like, more so sad about losing a friendship with them because all of a sudden then we just didn't speak at all.
we have to be like that. That's why when you said it's a mistake getting that close, I think it's literally impossible.
So
like, I can't do a single show without having a conversation without, you know,
manager.
a person, anybody. And now I'm like, oh, I actually really like that person. And I try and be friends with them. You know what I mean?
No, and like you send every TikTok you're about to post to them, like you talk all day long. But this was the thing, when I got out here, I never saw my main manager. Not once. They gave me someone who was the day-to-day.
Yep.
And I TikToked every day. And I was paying $5,500 in rent.
Wow.
And spent all my savings getting out here, having to furnish this apartment, having to drive all around LA, shipping my car out here. Like it cost me a lot of money.
Well, I did it. Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah. And then I'm TikToking inside every day. And then I'm playing like small shows around town that I can get myself, you know, like you just DM the person.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, like this is, what are
That's
we doing?
literally how we met.
It is. I DM'd you.
Yeah,
I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the hard thing after being dropped by the management and then the label happened really quickly after that. Because when there's no plan.
I was about to say the structure is probably what they look for.
And it was time to get paid again. And when there's no plan, and now I went from having management and this record and all these things, the label feels really confident in putting more money behind you.
Yep.
But when all of a sudden you're like stranded and you're not playing shows anymore, now you don't have management, you don't know what songs are next because you don't have that person with you anymore to say, okay, this is what we're doing next.
Yep.
And like I can say it all I want, but like the label trusts the management, not always the artist, you know?
Yeah.
They want to hear from the manager.
Yep.
So then they dropped me. And my publishing deal dropped me the same day.
Wow.
And then my CAA agent dropped me too. And then my business managers dropped me.
Oh
like
my God.
literally it was all happening in the same week and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, and I was so
And you're how old at this time?
I'm 25.
Wow.
20, yeah. So, and I'm about to turn 26.
And you're out here kind of by yourself, like family's not
Yeah, my
really
boyfriend
here.
did move out here with me, but you know, he had to restart his whole life too because it was brand new out here. And
wow.
I'm looking around at this apartment that I just finally finished, fully furnishing, all these things and all these new friends I'm making, and I'm finally starting to get going here. And then when everyone dropped me, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I can't even tell my parents. Like, I literally went like 2 weeks not telling them, just crying every single day because I was so just traumatized and shocked by the entire experience. It was so...
Are you in those moments more so, or are you emotional about the record deal, the publisher, and them not wanting you anymore? Or are you more so like, I thought this was going to be this big thing, everyone kind of like, you know, sold me the dream.
Yeah.
And then they left right, I guess, when it got a little bit rocky.
I felt really abandoned, I think. That was like and it took me about a year to realize what went wrong with those people and that I was mishandled. And I still to this day don't think I did anything wrong. And that's just kind of how this industry works. So like, you can be great, you can be all these things, but if the numbers aren't showing, or if things start falling apart, it's a bad investment then.
Yep. I want to really analyze that, because I think that's such a common thing. I've talked to so many artists that are in record deals, they got dropped, whatever. And from the outside, it's very easy to look at artists and be like, it was their fault. Like, they must be crazy. They must have said something or done something wrong to somebody or whatever. So can you elaborate a little bit on what, when you say mishandled, or the reason would be that you know?
I just don't think that the only way to break an artist is on TikTok. I don't think that much pressure should have been put on that, because all the pressure then goes to me, and everyone just sends me TikTok ideas every day. And then you're making, $30,000 music videos, and I'm like, okay, well, there's not going to be a return on that, just so you guys know. Like, I feel like
Is that truly the plan? Like, you get signed by a record label, a publisher, and a manager, and an agent, you just said.
Yes.
And you were sitting inside
TikToking
making
every
TikToks
day.
all day.
And when I tell you the artist in me died every single day, I was like, I'm making cooking videos, you guys. I'm making cooking.
I'm sorry to laugh at this. I really don't.
It's hilarious looking back. Yeah. And I remember every day being like, I'm doing this, and then after just being like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah, what?
They're like, make a cocktail. Let's get a video of you like making a cocktail in your kitchen. And I'm like, okay, let me just be clear. Why? Like, what's the purpose? Because then people say, oh, we love her cocktails. Let's go to her profile. Maybe she has more cocktail videos.
And then, but then how do they get to the music? This is my main fucking thing. It's like, so Joe Marson, who we had on last week, made a video of him playing a tennis racket, playing the guitar on a tennis racket. And he gets all these followers. I'm like, yo, do you think the people that like this video are gonna go to your music? He's like, probably not.
No, they
He's
don't.
like, I'm just having a good time.
Yeah, no.
Like,
at this point, I'm just making videos for fun.
But to be 25 and like flown out here and like all these things that are so desirable to every artist.
And are a one-time opportunity. That
truly.
Was the thing. Is like, I really felt like I wished every day in middle school, like when the clock would turn 11:11, I remember being like, I wish one day to have a record deal, not even knowing what that meant.
Yeah.
Every day I wished for that, and every day that's all I wanted. I already knew I didn't want to go to college, like in middle school.
Yep.
And my parents were like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, why does she think she's going to get a record deal? She's just singing like Miley Cyrus karaoke every day, and she thinks she's going to sign a record deal. But I worked at it, and I started writing songs, and I learned how to play piano and guitar by myself, and like did all these things, and then signed a record deal and put so much of my life into it, gave up going to college and making those relationships and making friends that you have for the rest of your life. Like, I gave up a lot for this. And then to like strike lightning and then find this management company who unfortunately just didn't turn out to be like who they said they were going to be long term, and then lose everything. I think I just was so shocked and traumatized by the entire thing.
What was the start to finish, the total time frame you were with both label and management company before they dropped you?
2.5 years.
Wow.
So I was with the label probably a full year more than management. I signed with management, but we just had Zoom meetings like every week when I was still living in Nashville. We would kind of prepare for interviews one day or do interview training or something. Like I was about to be on Good Morning America or something, which never happened. And yeah, like we were literally training for that kind of stuff. We were talking about music video ideas. They'd have me make, different treatments for music videos. Just kind of like not busy work, but hey, we're doing something.
Yeah.
And only truly like I had only been here 11 months and before they dropped me. So the amount of work that we did was so small.
Yeah.
And honestly, since being dropped, the hardest thing is just like getting people to pay attention to you, I think, or take you seriously when you don't have all of these big names behind you.
Do you think that's, because I also similarly talk to artists who don't have any of those big names behind them, so do you think having wanted something for so long, is there a part of you that's like trying to figure out how to not like want those things anymore?
Yeah.
And like be the new...
Reframe it, yeah. I don't want... Hey, if I didn't need a label and all those things, I'd be so happy. You start realizing what the label does when you try and make a music video and you have $2,000 to make a music video and it turns out like shit. And you're like, okay. Or like when you're doing your own makeup for a music video and you're like, okay, this looks like shit. And there's just certain, and when you find out it's $3,000 to have a hair and makeup team there for the day or something, and you're just like, okay. Or trying to get a band, like for your show. I remember being like, I cannot afford a band. And so I literally plugged my phone in to sing songs because I was like, I don't want it to just be an acoustic set because I've done so many of those. And so there's just a lot of things that kind of get you down after that, I think, where you're just like, man, I remember being in my trailer at my music video. Someone's doing my hair, someone's doing my makeup, someone's feeding me salmon, literally, because it's lunchtime. And I'm like, hi, I'm Eloise, you're on the set of my music video. And then I'm doing my hair and makeup in my car, sweating my ass off and being like, hey, Eloise,
damn, that's crazy. Usually it goes the other way around. You start in your car and then you get... I did
start in my car. I did do those too.
I guess you've gone the up and then back, you know.
And so I'm like, we're back here again. That's the thing that's so hard is I'm like, I'm worse off than I was at 20 when I signed my publishing deal.
Wow. Are you though?
I don't know. I've been a little bit negative, I will admit, the last few months. I think I went from being really sad to just like angry. Yeah. And you go through the phases of emotions. And it's, at first when I got dropped, I was like, we can do this. Like, we'll go viral on TikTok. We'll show them. We're going to play shows. We can do all this ourselves. And you do that for months and months. And then, you know, a lot of people don't respond to your emails or things fall through or, oh, we might like want to have someone pitch your song for this. And then they stop responding. And it just kind of wears on you after a while. And now that it's been a year, I have found myself just annoyed.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, what's the, coming out of all of that, what's like the focus now? Like what is in your head that's keeping you going?
I think the one thing that I never realized was all those people don't matter. Like the big names, like having all that behind you. At the end of the day, if you have a fan base, like you're unstoppable. You know, you can do whatever you want. You play shows, they're going to show up. You can release music, they're going to go listen to it. Like, having that core group of people who really care about your music and want to connect with you is something that I've always not had. And that's what I just focus on every day now, is trying to build a connection with people. And so that when they listen to my music, it matters to them in a way, or that they know a little bit more about me. Because I think it was really hard to understand when I was coming out with my first EP, when I'm making cocktail videos and then home decor videos, and they're like, what is this bitch's deal? Like, and then she's singing about her heartbreak, and I don't understand, like, why is she being funny? And then she's fucking crying in the song. Like, who is this? And so now I'm just like, okay, you know what? My songs are sad, so here's actually how I feel. Yeah. And I'll make you laugh now and then, but actually I'm kind of sad, you guys. And they're like, oh, like, I'm getting a better response now doing that, but still doesn't reflect in streams necessarily. But
yeah. Do you think those years were spent a lot not focused on music, and it was like a lot of like the business side of things, or you had a management company telling you what to do? Like, do you wish you just took 5 years and were by yourself making your own music? Yeah,
I mean, the music I think has always been there. Like, that's always gonna be my superpower, I guess, is the songwriting. Being popular online is not my superpower. Another thing people I think don't realize is like TikTok, or people who are on TikTok and are good at it are like the popular girl in school. Yeah. You know? Usually musicians are like theater kids or so, like the fucking weirdos. So we're not like the popular girl online. And I think labels also aren't realizing that either. But, you know, TikTok also came out when I was being signed. So much was changing.
Ooh, interesting. And that's so true, because it was right. I remember pandemic. I didn't get on to start watching artists until 2020-ish. Yeah. Lizzie McAlpine was like the first artist I saw, and she was just in a bathroom. Yeah. And I'm like, that says 600,000 likes? Like, what the fuck is this? I was like, this is not going to be good.
And like, as it kept going, I think it became really oversaturated. Yeah. And now it's a lot harder for artists to do that. But, I mean, yeah, if I had just spent those 5 years, maybe not even with a label or anything, and did focus on TikTok my own way, or having an online presence or writing more or whatever it is, like, I mean, obviously I can't change how things happen, but now I'm just trying to go back to what matters the most to me, which is songwriting and music. And I think I got really excited by all the glam of having what I had before.
Now, were you excited by that for material reasons, or was it you saw what they could do for the art you were trying to make, and you loved the potential?
Love the potential. And I was so excited for younger me. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but I was just like, she would be peeing her pants if she saw this right now. Like, we're doing it. Like the work is paying off. And having a passion is difficult because you you eat, sleep, and breathe it, you know? And so when things don't work out, it is so much more soul crushing than like if you got laid off. And even if you do get laid off, like, don't you get like not severance or something? I don't know. I've never had a real job, but like severance.
I've
or,
always
like,
said there's no minimum wage. There's no retirement package for the music industry.
No, and there's also like no unemployment. You know. And I'm trying to make a resume to like get a job because I'm like okay, I'm poor.
Yep.
My last thing, I was like, okay, so college
signed
degree.
to record deal.
Yeah, and then
Is
it's
that
last
right?
job. I'm like delivering hot wings in Brentwood and Nashville in 2017. Oh, what was with this like large area where you weren't working? I'm like, do you want to hire me? And everyone's like, no.
Oh my gosh.
Why would we hire you?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. So, I mean, have you taken a second to like, you probably taken many seconds, to find any sort of beauty in all of this? Like not, because it's getting over the anger, getting over the sadness of it leaving, but like what has been the silver lining, if anything, in going through all of that at such a young age?
I think, you know, in a way, because I moved to Nashville, and yeah, there were hardships living there those first few years, but things did align for me really quickly. Like, I signed a publishing deal, came out with one song, and got a record deal. And then signed with this huge management company, and then got the agents and the business managers and all the things, right? I think I didn't have a clear idea of what a lot of people go through. And then I went through it, you know? And you'd always hear about, you know, you have to sleep in your car for years, or you have to put all this in. Like, I was living very comfortably when everything aligned. Not that there's a beauty in going through and, like, these hardships and being depressed and being sad, but, like, it does make your music better, I think. I mean, I've written some of my favorite songs since this has happened. I was trying to steer away from sad songs, and so that's why I'm trying to find a different angle to look at it, but I just think, if anything, hopefully it'll make me more relatable than I would have been before, I guess. I don't know.
Totally. I want to zoom in. You've probably talked about it so much, but you've skipped over so many quick things of, I signed to a publisher, I put out a song, I signed a record. Like, that shit is crazy.
No, I know.
Because, again, there's so many artists that they're trying so hard to get these things. And for you to have been so young and it just kind of happened, not saying you didn't write great songs or it
happened,
you didn't work
fast.
for it. Start at the beginning of how do you get the first publishing deal?
So when I had first moved to Nashville, I had written maybe like 5 songs. And at the time, you know, when you're 17, you're like, these songs are so good. I look back now and I'm like, okay, those are not good, but whatever. I moved there thinking this is going to change my life. And I got there and learned really quickly that everyone there is also trying to do the exact same thing. So I just said yes to every single thing in town that I could. But it's really hard to write with people too when you're 17 years old and you have written 5 songs total. So I started going to this one restaurant called Pinewood Social, and hopefully they don't see this, but I would go to the bar and get a soda water with cranberry in it or something with like a lime in a short like crystal glass. And then I'd go get a table and by myself because I didn't know anyone. And I would say, oh, I'll have another one of these. And they'll be like, you know, what is it? And I'm like, oh, vodka sour cran.
And you're 17 at this time?
Yes. And I'm getting shit-faced by myself because I'm not confident at this age, right?
Yeah.
And then I start saying I'm this songwriter and I'm an artist and I have this big producer who wants to make this record. Would you like to write with me? You know?
Wow.
And I start writing with the different waiters at Pinewood Social because I had heard through the grapevine that they're all songwriters.
Yep.
And that they all like to work there. I wrote all these songs with this guy named Devin, and then I decided I wanted to get them produced. So I started working a job delivering hot wings. And I got a few songs produced, and then I had a lawyer named Jeff Colvin who's been there with me from the beginning, and he was like, I can send him out to a few publishing deals or publishing companies. We don't know what will happen. And this one woman, Carla at Big Yellow Dog, was like, bring her in. I want to have a meeting. I went in there. I sat down, and after spending like so much money on these songs I had recorded, she was like, I hate the production. Can you just sit at that piano over there and play me a song? And I was, at this point, I'm 20 years old.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And I'm super nervous. And I actually was wearing these exact shoes.
No shit.
Not that that matters. But I sit at this completely out-of-tune piano, and I played her one of my songs called Lady, and she was like, shut the fuck up, shut up. And she's over the top. She's so funny. She's like the mama bear of Music Row, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, we're doing this thing. And I'm like, shut up. She's like, I'm signing you. She's like, you need to be just you and a piano. Your songs are so vulnerable. She's like, you're just taking this from this guy. This guy just treats you like this, and you're just staying. I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, that's so pathetic. I love it. I love it. And I'm like, thank you. And I call my mom after, I'm like, Mom, she thinks I'm pathetic. Like, I got signed. It's perfect. And she's the best. I love Carla, and we still talk. And so she signs me, and by the time I actually signed the papers, the pandemic started like 3 months later.
Yeah.
So every right that I had while on that publishing company was on Zoom.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, so pretty much so far nothing has gone the way that I wanted it to go, but I thought that I like skipped the line because it was the pandemic. When I first signed with the label, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is why I was signed. It's because it's the pandemic.
Interesting.
But it ended up not working out. So.
Yeah. Does the label come around because you have the publisher, and the publisher is pitching songs because they want you to get...
So Big Yellow Dog had like a deal with Atlantic.
Gotcha.
Like a first look deal, if that makes sense.
So, yeah.
So with Meghan Trainor, when Meghan Trainor was with Big Yellow Dog, and with Carla, same thing happened. They went to Atlantic, they passed, but then she ended up signing a huge deal, and that song came out. But when she took my songs to Pete, he'll pass or he'll say yes to different artists that she brings all the time, because the difference with Big Yellow Dog too is they have like an artist publishing company, so they're helping you distribute your music while you're writing. And he listened to one of my songs called What I Thought It Was, and I had just made a little music video for it during the pandemic, and he was like, I want to hear more from her. Let's put her in the studio with Dave Cobb for 3 songs just to see how it goes, and then we'll decide. So I go in the studio with Dave Cobb, do the 3 songs, and then I got a call while I was out partying on a Sunday in Nashville, tipsy, and I get this call, and it's Pete, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I like go around on the side of this bar, and I answer. He's like, I want to sign you. Like, I love these songs.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, I literally, like, my heart just sunk. And I was like, okay, yes, like whatever, and then he's like, okay, but Dave Cobb only has an opening in a month, so you need to write we need to write the whole album in a month.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, bet, like, let's do it. And so I wrote the entire album in a month. Thank God I just had my heart broken, so there was a well of things there. And yeah.
And can you explain a little bit more of how Dave Cobb enters into the situation?
Honestly, I think Pete just really loved Dave Cobb's work, because I didn't know him before. I also, looking back, like, my genre was a little bit more pop than that at first. And that's the reason for my question, is that the music that I listened to of yours was a little bit more, not fluffy in a bad way. Like Dave Cobb, I feel like does a lot of more grittier, kind of like country leaning stuff like that. So, the reason for my question is like, how does that happen if the styles are a little bit different? Well, Full Stop came in, and...
Interesting.
They were like, we don't have a single, like we need something that will like sell immediately first. So then I wrote a song called Her.
Gotcha.
And it was more pop sounding and more like, marketable, I guess. And they wanted to make sure that the first EP was more marketable. So only 2 of the Dave Cobb songs ended up making it on the EP. And then songs like Carousel and Her, and those ones were what they thought would help sell more. I needed more upbeat songs, they thought. So.
What was it like being that age and then working with a producer like Dave Cobb?
Cool?
Like, everybody knows
literally,
who he is.
First day I walked, my pit stains couldn't have been any more ginormous. The first day I was in there, I brought everyone cookies, and I was like so quiet. Looking back now, obviously you have to go through those experiences to then become more confident. But I had also never... the way that Dave records is not like, he doesn't do everything on the computer and then you sing a vocal. Like, you're in there with a full band. Mm-hmm. Like, the drummer is playing while you're singing. So I'm singing with the whole band, and they cut your vocal live in that room. And then if there's anywhere you sing it through like 3 times.
Wow.
And then that's usually the vocal that he likes to keep because he likes the performance from top to bottom, which I really like too.
Yeah.
And especially for the songs that, like, I can't wait to release those songs because they're some of my favorite that I ever did. And I mean, when I was with Full Stop, I started thinking the songs I was writing that were more poppy and out here were becoming my better songs.
Wow.
But I'm not a poppy, boppy singer. Like, it doesn't match my voice, really. And so me trying to be like an Ariana Grande or like a Sabrina Carpenter, I'm just going to let them do that. You know, like, they're really
That's
good
so
at it.
interesting. That is such a great way to describe how I felt, because I listened through all your music yesterday. And I was like, her voice is making me feel something, but the songs are a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah.
Than even when I saw you on stage at Hotel Cafe. It was
Yeah.
That was much more moody.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like you remove the backing tracks and just get you and a guitar. That's really where that shines.
Yeah, that's where I shine, I think.
Yeah.
But you have so many people saying, well, people are going to fall asleep, or this is boring, or you can't do this many in a row, or this isn't going to get you famous on TikTok. Because on TikTok,
I was just about to say, you throw in the TikTok in that equation, and it's like...
It doesn't work.
Your artistry, anything that you care
Gone.
about, it's like, who gives a
Dead.
fuck?
Yeah, so you have a Dave Cobb album. I did 12 songs with him.
That's crazy.
And they're like...
That's crazy to have that
I know,
credit
and
at that
I
age.
will say I own all my masters now, which was a great thing coming out of the deal, if I can make them worth something, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they didn't see any value anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know, on TikTok, when, like, the verse, you have to listen to the whole song to get the story, you know?
Yep.
It's not a soundbite, and I think that was the hardest thing on TikTok, is they're like, these songs are not they're not going to do what these other songs are doing for these other artists,
Yeah.
like A, B, C, D, E, F, U, and
Oh
I can
my
have my
gosh.
Gucci on. Like, those are great for TikTok, and
Can you
they're
believe
boppy.
that song was a #1 for how long on Billboard?
So
Like,
long,
that's
and she was
crazy.
signed by Pete too.
Oh, no shit.
And so, you know, she's doing all
Wow.
that. And they're like, look what Gail's doing. Look what Gail's doing.
Yeah, she was somebody I met in Nashville, like, before any of that stuff. We did a show.
Yeah.
And then I saw that song. I was like, is that the same girl? Like, I
Yeah.
did not hear that set.
I know,
You know
isn't
what I
that
mean?
crazy?
Yeah.
She wrote that song with Dave Pittenger, who I wrote my song Her with, too. And
No
so they're
kidding.
like, oh, you know, they
Yeah.
look at a model of someone else making it work.
Yes.
And then they're like, okay, copy and paste.
Yes.
And so it didn't work, obviously, but
Yeah.
I come out with Her, and first of all, I hated singing that song live. I hate singing a lot of the poppy songs live because they sound different when they just don't match my voice.
Yep.
My voice is better with something like When We Were Young by Adele
Yep.
is one of, like, my favorite songs to
Yeah.
sing. But I don't know, so that's what I've been really focusing on now, is being able to still tell my story, but also do it in a way that complements my voice, and just enough of, like, the bullshit kind of too, of trying so hard to be something that worked for someone else. Like, that worked for them, and that's great. Like, I'm going to leave
Yeah.
it to them to keep doing that, you
Yep.
know? I'm not going to try to become them.
I think that's my question of, are you starting to see the silver lining in
I think so
your
now.
situation?
I think too, I just really want to make music I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like showing someone that you think's super cool a song that you're really proud of, not showing them like a song with a chorus that you repeat like 12 times and then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And playing live used to be my least favorite thing on God's earth.
Really?
And now I love the attention when I'm up there.
How come you didn't like just nerves and all that
Nerves,
stuff?
yeah. That was another crazy thing about being signed. They didn't know I'd like never played live.
Wow.
I'd only played like 2 writers rounds in Nashville.
Crazy.
And like had to talk myself off of a cliff before every time.
to get on stage.
And now I don't really care as much. Having a set list and like knowing what you're doing and like just having everything, just knowing your words and your lyrics and all the chords to the songs, like that's more what I'm stressed out about.
Mm-hmm.
I've written so many songs, like the fact that people think that you can just keep all of that like in your memory.
Yeah.
I literally have to look at it every single time because my brain starts telling me, bet you don't know this next fucking chord. And then I'm like, oh God, I don't know.
I'm not
the
gonna
next
lie,
chord.
that is because I grew up like taking piano lessons and playing so
Yeah.
many instruments. That was the main reason I stopped. Is because I played shows on stage, but I'd get on stage and I'm like, oh my God, what's the next chord? Like,
Yeah.
what is the next? I'm like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. Like,
No.
I'm just gonna do something totally
I
different.
just literally forced myself to do it.
Yeah.
And ended up really loving it. And I said it was, I love the attention I'm up there. I think it's just that I like the people who are listening.
Yeah.
Because, when you don't get that many streams or when your TikToks don't get that many views, it's like it feels like no one's ever listening or thinks you're important, I guess, in a way. And so to be on stage, like there is a moment where they kind of just have to listen, I guess. And I also just love singing and playing music. So
Yeah.
I've really grown to love shows. I like them when all the things come together. If you have a band that knows your music and you can just actually stand up there, play the guitar, and like really do it the way that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Instead of me always, it's just a shit show, me throwing things together trying to make it work.
Yeah. What do you say to the other artists, or even to yourself, when you're like, I'm putting so much content out, I'm playing all these shows, not really getting much action, having such a history of like bigger things where you're like, I did so many big things.
Yeah.
Now it's just not at that level right now. What's the thing in your head where you're telling yourself like, I need to keep going? Like,
I think I just have to remember, like, I had a huge machine behind me then. I mean, they would put thousands of dollars behind a TikTok to make it go viral. Like,
Wow.
they would boost all of them. So it was getting, if something wasn't doing well and it was about music, it would all of a sudden overnight have like 200,000 views.
that's great.
And it helped to build, like, a group of people who then saw it, but having to actually just rely only on yourself is always going to be hard. But I have a great support system who I'm sure at this point are like, okay, when are we just going to throw the towel in? But I think I would just remind myself every now and then that I love music, because I've lost that a lot of times. I mean, I used to play and write songs by myself all the time. And I haven't sat down at the piano by myself in months. Like,
Really?
I can't. Like, every time I go to do it, I just get really sad. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's either a great song brewing or...
I was about to say, well, do you think it's in part because you're afraid to like start hoping or like
Yeah.
start being excited about it again? Because
yeah.
it probably was so hard at a young age. Like you wished and wished and wished, you manifested that shit.
Yeah, I did.
And then you get it.
Yeah.
And then it's gone in
Yeah.
like the blink of an eye.
Yeah. And
Like,
you're-
is it hard to get back in the saddle? I guess I can also relate to
Yeah.
restarting and like
It's
what
so
that feels
hard,
like.
because you really have to rely on just your self-worth to be really strong, and like your confidence in yourself to be so strong, and like it's just unrealistic to be that confident and positive all the time.
Yeah.
And sitting at the piano, and I sit there and I'm like, this fucking thing's out of tune and I can't even afford to get it tuned. Like, are you joking me? And then all these things start reeling in my head, and I just have to be like, stop, do what you love this. Remember the little girl that went down to her basement every day because her parents put the piano down there, so that they had to stop listening to it upstairs. And I went down there every day after school, and I'd be down there until midnight. And I just was so happy and so unaware of the world around me. And my boyfriend said to me the other day too, he's like, I've just watched like a huge piece of you die since all this has happened. Like, your love.
But is that dying though? Or
It's
is
not
that
dying,
not
I
like
think-
literally finding yourself?
I think it's refinding myself, but he's like, I haven't heard you even play an instrument or play the piano in months. And I'm like, I'll get there. Like, I just don't want to right now. Like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't make me happy like it used to.
Yep.
Because there's this, and it feels like there's no hope sometimes.
Yeah.
And
no, I know.
I can be dramatic about stuff all that I want, but
That's
it's
not
like,
dramatic though. That's you and every artist, like
Yeah.
who hits, publish on how many songs a year and how many
Yeah.
TikToks, and like you're not getting, and then you're told like, oh, go do it the way this person does, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And
Like I
it's
don't know how
not
to be
me.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge part of like being yourself, and then people being like, that's wrong. That you're like, okay, wait, what am I? So I start moving differently, and going about things differently. And I think I just have to find the love again for it. And just, I don't think younger me would also want me to give up. I think, yes, she would be sad to know like what happened, but
Yeah.
I also think that she would be like, then do it again.
I was about to say, haven't you got to the stance of just fuck you, like fuck everybody?
I wanna show 'em
and like
so
it
bad
just
too,
doesn't,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because there's nothing. You've seen the almost fraudulent side of the music industry.
Yeah.
Like, to know that all those TikToks that go viral to start have money behind them.
Yeah.
That labels are just
Money
signing
is the
somebody.
answer.
You come out to LA, you're with a fucking million, if not billion-dollar management company.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I'm
make
literally
cooking
backstage at
videos.
Harry Styles and Irving Azoff's back there getting a chicken finger, and I'm just like, what is my life? Like,
Yeah.
I just moved here. Like, all these cool people are here.
It just goes to show you, though, that the artist, it is all on you always. There's not a viral TikTok. There's not a cooking video. There's none of that shit that's going to change. Just, are you a great songwriter? Do you
Yeah.
have a great voice? Like, can you fucking crush
Are
on
you an
stage?
artist?
Yeah,
like, you
exactly.
And trying to keep that intact is hard with like where things are now.
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna be the magic sauce or whatever. It's just like still being true to
Yeah.
your artistry.
100%. The last chick that we had, her name was Sabrina. She basically I met her on that stage. She had 1,000 followers, 0 music released. That was 3 years ago, 2021. She has 1 million followers now. She basically went out on a ledge, but like one day was in her bedroom, picked up a hand drum, wrote this Celtic like song that just went super fucking viral, made a video for it, and then realized she just wanted to like do social media how she wanted to do it. So they started traveling to like Scotland and all these different places, making this super cinematic content, just her and one other dude.
Really?
And it's just like fucking the comment. I read through everything last night. I was like, what? And I remember when I first saw that, things were going viral for her, it was like November of last year, and she had 400,000 followers. It was 3 a.m. I'm asleep. Look at my phone. I'm like just scrolling because I can't sleep. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, we just did a show a couple years back, and she was great, but it's like you don't expect, you know, at least in my position, you see so many artists, you don't know who's gonna pop off. Because it never makes sense. It truly, I don't give a fuck what A&R, what anybody fucking says. They'll probably even admit to it. You don't know what the public is gonna grab onto.
You never know.
There's those things that just like the perfect timing of everything.
Yeah.
And I just saw that and I was like, this is wild. So then our conversation is like, you know, it's hard for her to have perspective, or at least the stuff that I'm looking for, which is like yourself. You've been through things. It's very industry focused. Mm-hmm. She just said, fuck it all. She's like, she didn't even know like what the social media shit was. She was just like,
did it.
I never listened to anything that anybody said. And I was like, there's beauty obviously in that perspective.
Totally.
But it's just talking to you guys back to back. It's such a polarizing thing. It really is. It blows my mind. Yeah. Because I'm like, there's so many people that relate to both things of like, you know, I want the label side. I love that team aspect because there's so much potential. Because even she was saying, you know, we're doing it by ourselves. I can't have this. I don't have money for a big team. Yeah. But it's doing well on socials. But how do I take that? So to have 1 million followers, and she's still like, I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, I don't know what to do right now.
That's crazy because I've always thought if I have 1 million followers, like I have the world in my hands. Like, or that's what the labels made me think. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like I always thought, oh, followers don't matter. Yeah. But how do you get people to come to your shows? Like that's the main thing that you have to make people obsessed with you.
Yeah,
like,
that's
literally what it is.
And you know what's even funnier about her situation? She doesn't have a single live show schedule. She's like, I'm just gonna, and she is so good live. And like some of her videos, they did like sunset videos with like a band around her, and she has a hand drum, but then like strings, and it's like super great.
And it's she's like just so like
she's like, I don't really want to do that right now. And it's just to hear that shit. I'm like, do you understand if there was even you, right? Like you're here now, and you're like, I'll take the 1 million followers. Let's do the shows, you know. And it's just I'll
literally do anything. Just give me 1 million followers.
Yeah, having these conversations, it's like, you know, seeing what matters to everybody and how different. But then there's the trends. There's the, you know, follow this way, be like this other person. I'm just learning there's so many ways to skin the cat.
Yeah.
But one of the last things I wanted to talk about was just there are so many artists that are in Nashville coming to LA, in LA, sick of everything here, wanting to go to Nashville. Can you just talk about your experiences in each place and what you liked, what you didn't like, what you think is different?
I mean, I loved Nashville and didn't want to leave. I definitely see as a singer-songwriter who isn't in country, Nashville does sometimes get stuck in their ways of verse, chorus, you know, verse, chorus, bridge. Like they're very structured, depending on who you're writing with, of course. And production sometimes maybe isn't, if you are in the genre that I'm in, which is, I don't even know, but like trying to find the people to work with was harder in the beginning just because it's smaller, honestly. But it's also hard to find that out here too. Obviously, just like take your time to find the right people to collaborate with, because I don't necessarily always think it's the city itself. I think it's just who you decide to work with, you know, and finding that perfect like little group of people that you can just do all your stuff with and bring out the best artist in you. But I definitely like the price point in Nashville more. I could live off of a certain amount of money there and be comfortable, but here that's like poverty level. And I think that has, and like not even to be dramatic, like everything is so much more expensive here that even sometimes when someone's like, hey, yeah, like let's write I Have a Place out in Pasadena, I'm like, okay. Like that's another $30. And, you know, and sometimes you get in your head too, because you're like, I'm writing all these songs, what's it doing? But wait, can you repeat the question?
Just your difference in experience, what you didn't like about Nashville and LA.
the thing I didn't love about Nashville was just the way that girls there kind of are expected to look to become famous, if that makes sense. And just everything there is a little bit more cookie cutter, if that makes sense.
I can't believe you just said that. Literally, Jess and I visited. My exact experience was, I was like, why does everyone look the same here? Why is everyone wearing white cowgirl boots and fucking jean shorts and all the dudes have like short and polos on?
Yep.
I'm like, there's no edge, there's
nothing. And I was so comfortable even in just like, I always stayed in my comfort zone there with the way that I did things. And here, like, there's a girl with assless chaps on, like, walking down the street. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, okay, so if she can do that, then I don't think anyone's going to care if I wear the wrong belt with, like, the medals that I'm wearing on my, like, no one cares.
Yeah.
And I think, too, just, like, the diversity out here has been so much better for me to just open my eyes, like, to how many different kinds of, not just people there are, but, like, creators there are, and how many different, inspirations you can have for things. My experience, I guess, which, like, the weirdest part is Atlantic's in New York, so I never was in a city where my label was.
Weird.
So, I mean, my experience in Nashville was better, only looking back, though, because I was a lot more comfortable then, I think.
Yeah.
With having all the deals and everything. Everything fell apart out here, so it's hard to...
That's wild. So you never met your label because they're in New York.
Yeah, I went there once.
You never met the main manager, only the day-to-day.
Yeah, the main manager guy is the one that called me and was like, hey, we're dropping you, you know. And I was like, wait, what? I was just, what? Like, it was so random. It was right before Christmas. And he's like, yeah, it's just, like, not working. I'm like, what do you mean it's not working? Like, he's like, LA's just not working. I'm like, but you said to move here. Like, I'm so confused. And he's like, I think you should just, like, go back to Nashville. I'm like, that's easy for you to say. Like, that's, what?
Wow.
And I'm like, wait, what? Who are you? Like, what is going on? And he's like, I just don't think it's working. I'm like, I've not seen you since I've moved here. Like,
wow.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I never hear from them again.
Wow.
You know? Or you'll get, like, a great new song or something.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think learning how different people are out here with that stuff. Like, I never experienced that kind of person in Nashville,
just like coldness?
I guess. Coldness, yeah. I mean, I still talk to my publisher. I still talk to Pete at Atlantic. Like, they still care about me. They still try and connect me with other people and stuff, you know, or, you know, help where they can.
Yep.
But I think the business model out here is a little bit different. And they literally will say, it's just a business, like, get over it. And I'm like, no, okay, fine. It's just a business. I get it. But, like, you don't have to be a shitty person, I guess. Maybe people just show their true colors more out here. Maybe people are like that in Nashville too. I don't really know. It's really hard to get rights out here for me right now, just because I never made any of those relationships.
Is it hard to find the writers or connect with them and get in the room?
Connect with them and get in the room, for sure.
And people that you like and that you would want to write with and all that stuff.
Yeah, because they all have publishers or managers, and they're like, talk to my manager, and then, you know, just...
Wow. So what's that process like? Because I am sure that you're one of hundreds, thousands, you know, writers in LA that are trying to get the rights. So what, I guess, have you been doing?
I find a few people and I'm like, you meet tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
Or, hey, do you have a producer who would, you know, be great for a song similar to this one? Or, hey, I've been wanting, or what I'll do now is I'll just, like, start a song, and I've texted to a few different people that I've written with out here. And I'll be like, do you have anyone that we could write with to, you know, make this better or something? And they're kind of helping me then meet other writers and get in those rooms. Just because the speed dating of finding people to collaborate with it takes a long time, and I don't even know who to reach out to. This place is just so much larger, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no writers rounds that much, really, where, you know,
not really anymore.
Where you can be like, hey, I loved your song, like, you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of folk stuff there's just not as much. You probably already played them all, the pop ones, because there's like two.
I played all the pop ones. And
yeah.
Are there a lot of folk shows?
Yeah, like random folk stuff I see.
Sign me up.
Yeah. No, I'll send you a lot of stuff. There's a bunch of things I can send your way. Do you have any advice, having gone through what you've gone through, in and out of the record deal, publisher, all that stuff, to somebody who's just starting out that might want those things, same as you know, be desperately longing for them? given your experiences, what advice would you give them now?
It's going to be really a difficult road. And if it's not, like, that's so amazing for you, because that means that the stars are aligning, and that's so great. Like, if that happens for someone, literally, I'm so happy for them. But if not, the odds of it being a hard road are very high, but keep a good support system around you and people that tell you not to give up, because there will be times that you want to. And every time I want to, my mom or someone close to me says, you just can't. Like, you just can't. And then I'm like, no, I know. And so you need that support system a lot, because you feel really not special a lot, I think, in this industry. And whether you're in film and you're an actor and you get turned down for roles and stuff, you're always like, what, like, why? Because it's such a personal thing, especially with music too. People don't like your music, or if people make mean comments on your TikTok, which I get all the time, I'm just like, okay, like, you know what you're doing, you're good at this. There are people who like your music, and people will listen. You just have to figure out the formula. The formula is the hardest part. Figuring out how to strike lightning in a bottle, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
It's just, don't give up on that. There's going to be a path for you. And I'm still trying to find mine too, so we can do it together.
What do you think your 17-year-old self would say to you now about what to do in the next 5 years?
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Of just what the next 5 years, like, what would younger you say to you now about what to do with the next 5 years of your life?
Probably just to remember why I was doing it in the first place. It's like my own form of therapy. That's why I started writing songs. It wasn't to show other people really in the beginning, and then people started connecting with them, and I was like, this is so cool and so crazy, and I loved performing them and getting to see them come to life. I think I would just be like, stop being so negative. Just get over it, move on, because it's easy to say it when you're not in the position. And I think just take a big step outside of, the world that's just like really close in on you right now. Financial stress, I think, is what makes it really hard. Yep. If I'm being completely honest,
Yep.
And 17-year-old me didn't have financial stress. So she doesn't totally get to say too much about it, but I think she would just say, keep going.
Yeah.
You're going to be mad at yourself for the rest of your life if you don't, so.
Yep. Last question. In your head right now, what would be the moment in the future that you reach that you're like, I'm successful now?
To be able to headline a show, even if it's small, and sell tickets when people come.
Just start selling tickets.
Just to be, because I can't go play, like, even Sunrose on Sunset. I played there when I was with the label, and the label sold tickets, and the managers had a bunch of people come. But we didn't have to sell a certain amount of tickets, But to be able to say, hey, I'm playing these 10 shows, and people go buy tickets, not just in LA, like in Minneapolis or in, New Jersey or something, and people come, like, then I'd be like, I totally made it. Yeah. And I don't care if they're small shows, like, I made it if in these different cities I have enough of a presence for people to want to come see me live and spend their money to come see me sing the songs that they know live.
Yeah. What's your plan to connect with those people and actually do that?
Right now, I'm just letting it all hang out. I'm telling them exactly how I'm feeling all the time. I'm being really honest. I'm crying on camera, which I said I would never do. But then I start talking about it, and I literally start crying. And I'm like, bitch, stop. But then I start crying, and people are, they're always trying to make me feel better. But I'm like, I just really want to get to the next phase where I'm showing them songs and they're relating to it, and then they're going to download the song. Because before it was like, oh, this is good, and then they keep scrolling,
Yeah.
And I'm starting to find that it's really more important to, like, keep those people around and, like, connect with them and talk to them all the time, and make them feel like they're a part of this journey too.
Yep.
Because they're going to be the reason it happens or not some label.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. My advice, not that you asked for it.
No, I want to know.
Would be 100% lean on your personality. I feel like I talked to you for 2 seconds, and now I've talked to you for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like I had no idea that you had this, whole personality.
Yeah.
Like, you're funny. Lean into all
So
that
funny.
shit. You know what I mean?
I'm hilarious.
Just
Like,
lean in.
I think I'm so funny. And I don't understand why. I make jokes all the time on TikTok, and sometimes people will be like, LOL, what? And I'm just like, no, I'm kidding, you guys.
You know what's actually funny is and I don't know how to say this without fucking, like, sounding like I'm judging how you look versus how you are, but like the way you look and being that funny, it's like I see a lot of girls who don't have any personality, they're just blonde and whatever, especially in LA. So maybe that is.
Well, I was a fat kid, so I think like, and I naturally actually had red hair growing up.
No
I was
shit.
really pale, like, and super weird. Like I had a huge Guns N' Roses phase.
Yeah.
Like I drive a Dodge Charger.
That's not
still.
weird. That's awesome.
No, I do
also
love,
awesome.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin was like my shit. And I'm like, you guys have listened to the song, and everyone's like, like, what is wrong with you? And I had bangs and frizzy hair.
Yeah.
And I was so weird for so long and got treated like shit for so long that I
See,
think...
that to me, you just named like a lot of my favorite things, and you're like, I got weird. Everyone hated me because I'm like, oh my god, everyone hates me.
They thought I was so
I
straight.
literally have a picture of Guns N' Roses over
I
my
love
fucking.
Guns, yeah.
It's
And
like, that was weird. I listened to Guns N' Roses. I'm like, oh fuck.
Well, I was like 14, and everyone else is listening to like Hannah Montana, and I'm like, you guys have to listen to this.
That's great.
But I think that definitely just edged me up a little bit to be.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in high school, like I dyed my hair blonde and I started spray tanning and I got a personal trainer and I lost all this weight.
Yeah.
And then I saw how people treated me differently and I, was like, oh, that's.
I would say go
That's
back
bullshit.
to all the other stuff. Like if you went back to all those things, if that's
Get
where
fat.
you started, just be fat again. Just be fat and listen to Guns N' Roses,
Yeah.
and everyone will love you again.
Everyone will love you again.
Yeah.
I still drive the same Dodge Charger too that I
No
chose when I
shit.
was 16 because I thought that car was like what rock stars drove.
Whoa,
I've
that's
learned
great.
that it's what drug dealers drive.
So everyone thinks you're
And
a
so
drug
now I'm
dealer.
just like, okay, my vibes, my aesthetic is so confusing.
Yeah, true. That's great.
I'm all the different people that I've been.
Yeah, that's amazing.